here. This is day 2 at Auto Leave. I got to be here yesterday as part of a different group, and there's just a good energy. It's interesting how there's such an impact. The type of people that are leading organizations, it doesn't take long to get an idea of what type of people I'm going to meet next. Just quality. I'm just impressed at everyone that I got to shake hands with. So anyway, thanks for letting me be here. Here's the thing about me being here and sharing some thoughts with you. There's a lot more that you could teach me than I could teach you. I just happen to have a couple of ideas that I've been able to articulate well, and I've prepared them in such a way where I'm here to share, and there might be 1 or 2 things that I say that could latch on in your mind and in your heart that are going to make a difference. When I go and listen to someone speak, or I go to a conference or whatever it is, which is something I find myself doing more and more now, I've realized that to think you're going to retain everything that's said or somehow write this page of notes is typically not how it works, not how it works for me. Instead, I try to have my antennas up, trying to find what are these 1 or 2 nuggets that are going to actually go with me, and I'm going to just forevermore be different because of 1 or 2 ideas. And those 1 or 2 ideas may come from a comment or a question someone has in here. I hope that it comes in some way from something that I've prepared to talk to you about, and I just hope that we can all go forward being just a little bit better. I think it's amazing that you work for a company that cares enough about their people that they have room and time for this type of thing. That's amazing. That's a special thing. So
It doesn't want to load, Alex.
okay, we can plug in my.
I've tried a couple times now.
Let's just do this thing.
Okay.
You do the dongle, and then you'll just hit the play button.
355.
Where's an IT guy when you need him?
Try turning off the background.
So Kirk mentioned that I have this thing about miracle mornings. I want to tell you that the ironic thing about me talking about mornings in any way, so there's a picture up here I'll start with.
Why is that?
This is a picture of my family.
So it's going to the
28
side
years
ones,
old.
but just not the front
I've
one.
been married for going on 7 years. We got started pretty quick. And we have 3 kids, so 5, 3, and 2. And they're definitely my motivation. They're definitely the thing that keeps me going. So let me just talk to you about something that happened a couple years ago to me. So we lived in Arizona. Things in business and life and family were fine, but I constantly found myself unsure of where I really wanted to go. I never had a super clear direction of a career path. I'm easily distracted, which is sometimes a quality of mine and sometimes a disability. But I found myself not getting the results I wanted in life. I wanted to be better. I wanted to give more. I wanted to be a more powerful person in business, a more patient father. I wanted to be a better husband. I wanted to make more money. I wanted to have more freedom. Can anyone identify with wanting any of those things? Do you ever have those thoughts, like, I just want to be more? I think about that all the time. And so I find myself reading and studying and doing things we all do to try to edge up and level up a little bit. But someone said something in a meeting, and as it often is, there's these small little things you'll come across. One comment or one story or one piece of advice that'll put you on a path that has huge, huge repercussions. And this is how it went. I just simply heard someone talking about a book. They said, hey, we read a lot of books. I listen to podcasts, most of it's good stuff. But there's not that many that I can say really changed my life. But the Miracle Morning, yeah, that changed my life. And I'm just overhearing this. And so I'm thinking, dang, I want to change my life. That's like a pretty powerful thing for someone to say. So I go and get the book, I download it, I read it, and I can say the same. This principle, in and of itself, has delivered some very powerful results to my life. And it's caused me to discover some other things. And we'll talk about one of those specific things. But I just want to share it with you. I want to share the recipe. I want to talk about why I think it's important. So first, to talk a little bit about mornings. Who in here considers themselves right now a morning person? Okay, we have some morning people in here. Who would raise your hand and say, I'm not a morning person? Okay, so we're about 50-50, so that's good. So I was definitely in that camp, okay? Not a morning person. And as a victim of some of my own flexibilities and freedoms with my line of work, I could get away with sleeping a little longer than I probably should. But in general, if I were to summarize the way my mornings looked before really kind of discovering this, my mornings were reactive. How many of you had kids, have kids? Kids that are like still at home, little kids, okay? You ever experienced the kids waking up and just poking you in the face? And like, this day is starting right now, right? So a lot of times sleeping was like this, I'm just in my bunker until the enemy approaches, you know? How long can we stay hidden? Because they're going to start the day on their terms. But the second I allowed that to happen, I'm beginning my day as a reactive thing. It's like, all right, getting pulled up downstairs to go help with breakfast, and dad mode, right, begins. And in a reactive state, it was grumpy, it was unproductive, it was random. Every morning looked a little bit different, and it was really governed by what was the first thing on my calendar. So you look at your phone, what's my first must-do task? What time is my first meeting at Autoleave, right? And so whatever those early morning minutes consist of, it's probably dictated by that first must-be-to meeting. And so this was the pattern, and I realized, man, I'm living every day on the terms of my responsibilities. I'm not intentionally doing anything in the morning to level up. So, discovered the book. The book is called The Miracle Morning. It's written by Hal Elrod. The Audible's great. Buy the book, listen to it, whatever you think is going to get the content in your mind.
Here's your show and tell piece.
Okay, this is my show and tell piece. But in here, he has a recipe called Savers. Okay? And it is a very simple thing that you can follow. Has anyone ever heard of this book before today? Okay, a couple of you. Sweet. So let me tell you, before any of the content in the book at all, before anything that he actually talks about what you should do in the morning or how, this was the first thing that made a difference for me. Just the idea that I could become a morning person if I wanted to be. And I could choose to dominate mornings. That could be my thing. And I started to learn that that's actually a pretty common theme among people that are doing big things, people that are successful. Those morning hours, we all have them. Whether or not we choose to dominate them or survive them is completely up to us. And we were in a meeting yesterday, and it throws a curveball because some people have to get up really early of necessity. So you're thinking, I don't have a whole lot of margin to deal with here. I could be at Autoleave at 6, you know? Which, that's tough. But the reality is, I decided to make a change. I decided to become a morning person. And I followed the procedure. So, we'll have I can even show.
It's hating us, Alex.
Is
I don't
it?
know why it's hating us. But
That's okay. You know, the slides were kind of an afterthought. I'm more about just talking to you anyway. So,
we'll have it on the side screens, but not the front.
okay, cool. So, Savers works like this. It's S-A-V-E-R-S. If you're writing notes, which is totally optional, write that down, okay? S-A-V-E-R-S. So the prescription for a miracle morning is to intentionally wake up 30 to 60 minutes earlier than you have to. And that sounds really uncomfortable and painful, and it is. So for the 30-day challenge that Hal Elrod recommends, the first 10 days is called unbearable. And if you're getting up 60 minutes earlier than you're used to, especially if you're already an early riser that already feels like you don't have any extra time to go around, it's an uncomfortable thing for sure. So that's okay. But the S in Savers, the first one is silence. So I want to know how many of you, when you wake up in the morning, is the first thing you do, or within the first 5 minutes, to look at your phone and look at your notifications, your tasks, your calendar? A lot of us. It's a natural thing, and it's part of that reactive mindset. We're diving right into who needs me, is there something on fire, and we're in this mindset of being pulled, right? So silence is to postpone that intentionally. Don't look at the phone, don't look at the notifications, and find yourself in a quiet place where you can be mindful. If you're a prayerful person, this is the time for prayer. This is the time for meditation. And being diligent about building a fence around this. Protect this time. And for me, the reason that it has to be really early is because I have these 3 little kids that I have to build a fence around this time. If I get up too late, they will be there. And silence is not a thing they're into at all. So build a fence around this. Get up early, go where you have to do. But I've learned that it's a part of the process that should not be skipped, okay? So the second is affirmations. And we're going to get into this. We're going to talk a little more in depth about affirmations. The third is visualization. That's the V. Okay? And then exercise. And then reading. And then scribing. What's scribing?
Journal.
Yeah, writing something down. So there's several different takes on the scribing part. But it's important. So let me actually do this, Kurt. Why don't I just hold the iPad? Because I'm going to show just a couple things.
I don't know if you can hold it and show it.
Well, I'll
So
just
annoying.
hold it.
Okay.
Okay. So okay, and then I'm going to tell you some fun stuff about cryo, because you mentioned cryo. And has anyone ever done cryotherapy before? Nobody. Wow, that's good. Okay, so this will be fun to explain to you what this is. Okay, so silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, scribing. Okay, so this is the formula right here. Over the next few months of doing this, I experienced some dramatic changes in my life. And the one thing that I wanted the most was to feel like I had the bandwidth to do more. I felt like my bandwidth was so pulled and tight that there was days where I felt like just one more thing would just break me. I had no more capacity. And so how was I going to get to these goals of all these things I wanted to do and give and create if I didn't have more bandwidth? And so this simple practice, this recipe of forcing myself awake an hour earlier than I needed to be and following this process was a game changer for me. So I'll jump from that to talking a little bit about some of the results. So I had the desire to start a business. In addition to my sales business is still going, I kind of found this new love in this thing called cryotherapy. So no one has done it. Any guesses on what it is? You kind of gave it away. Does anyone know what it is?
Yeah.
You've never done it? Okay, you've heard of it, so just never done it. Okay. So here's cryotherapy, okay?
What time is that syrup?
Kind of a weird experience, okay? So hard to see. You can come look at this later. So this is my best friend, Colby Denton, standing in a tube. It's like a cylinder. Think of like a tanning bed that's standing upright. And it is being pumped with cold air from nitrogen tanks that gets down to negative 321 degrees. And you spend 3 minutes in there. And it is awesome. And you should all do it. So if you come to Arizona, you're all invited. Auto leave discount. It'll be a party. There's places in Utah to do it, so you need to look this up. But the backstory on this is I started doing cryotherapy myself because I was finding that it was helping a ton with like anxiety relief. There's this huge mood boost component. There's this burst of endorphins. The norepinephrine level goes crazy in your bloodstream. And I was sleeping better. I was recovering from my workouts. I was like, this stuff is awesome. And who's doing cryotherapy right now? It's all the elite athletes. So LeBron James is always in the cryo tank. The Utah Jazz just got theirs. Almost all the MLBs now have one installed. And I said, I think this is going to trickle its way down into just people like us that want to take advantage of the technology but don't have access to it. And with my newfound confidence and time, something like that before, I just don't think I would have been able to pull it off. But there's something about having these 2 hours in the morning of peace and clarity where I follow my prescription. And I began to visualize and affirm to myself that I was a business owner. I was the type of person that could go create something else in addition to what I'm doing and not be overstretched. and not be overwhelmed and still give quality to my family and to my current business. I started to develop this self-image that I was the kind of person that can do this. And then came the details of actually doing it and carrying that out. And it's just kind of cool that this is how it's helped Kirk and I connect a little more. Let me show you this guy right here. So this is yours truly back there getting frozen. So you stand in this thing, you get in there in a robe wearing socks and underwear and that's it. And then you take the robe off, we close the door, and you experience the 3 coldest minutes of your life.
How cold is it?
So negative 321 is the coldest it gets. We start you at negative 250 your first time. You kind of work your way down. People will ask me like, so does it feel cold? Dude, it's negative 300 degrees. I saw what you put your little airbags in there. Like, just go crawl in one of those things. And you know, the one with the negative 30 degrees Celsius on there and get a little taste. So yes, it's very cold. Your skin feels frozen to the touch. It's a pretty incredible experience. So this brings me to my first quote. I just want to talk about this. If there's one thing that you take from today, this quote has had a big impact on my life. Okay, Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "Do the thing, and you shall have the power." Spend a second thinking about that. What could that mean? And I'll be honest, the first time I heard this quote, there's a lot of little quotes. It's easy to like put some words together and post it and like make people think it's profound, you know? Like, what does this even mean? Do the thing, and then you shall have the power. Does anyone have any thoughts on what that could mean? Or how that could be in any way profound or helpful to us? Yeah.
Just being proactive and you know, if you're looking, like motivation, you're looking to be motivated or whatever the fact is, you have to be active to connect and approach, and whatever you're seeking, it'll come.
So you have to be active, he says. How many things are there that you want to do that you are waiting until just the right time to do? Do you have some things on your list? Right? It's not quite time yet, though. Like, I'm getting close, though, right? Right around the corner. I'm just working out a couple details, right? And then we're going to do that thing. He says, do the thing, and then you'll have the power. And the power could mean the means, the time, the focus. So this quote was in my office. It was something that I looked at. My mom was actually the one that shared the quote with me. And for me, it was the catalyst I needed to take a leap. One of those specifically being just opening a new business in conjunction with everything we were doing. It was kind of a risky little venture. It required some capital and some time, and it was like, you know, we're the only thing in town anywhere nearby that does this. Do people even want to freeze themselves for like a high price? Like, is anyone gonna come, you know? Do I even need to start another business, you know? There was plenty of doubts and critic, but back to what I said earlier, I had been forming a self-image that I am the type of person that can do this and that does this. And so now it was time for my actions to respond to my new self-image of someone that can do this, right? So it just took doing the thing, and then in the doing, you find the power, you find the means, you figure it out. But so many of us are waiting to do the thing because we don't yet have the power. So that small concept is one that can transform our lives. Here's another quote, goes right along in lines with this. So this is from the book, Hal Elrod. He says, "Those that only do what they feel like don't do much." You agree with that? If you only do what you feel like, you don't do much. To be successful at anything, you must take action, even when you don't feel like it. And here's the key: knowing that the action itself will produce the motivation to get you through. You got something for us, Pablo?
You gotta turn that back on. It's off.
Way to do the thing, Pablo.
Way to do the thing. Unreal.
And now we'll see.
That was the pooper scooper, he saw me and.
Who is that man?
Still know the
This
words.
is-
Yeah, let's see.
It's coming.
Hold off on all Pablo celebrating, please.
I just don't know.
So we'll go through these
Compatible
slides.
with the Mac.
I promise that these 2 or 3 ideas that I've told you I will share will be shared.
There we
But
go.
promise me something in return. I love questions. If you have any questions about anything we talk about, or about me or anything, ask a question at the end. Sometimes those are the best part of these groups. Someone's going to ask a question that someone else had, and then we discover something in the answer. So don't be shy. Okay, we might be in business.
Yay.
This is my cute family. Aren't they cute? So this is Abby. She's a 24-year-old mother of 3. We've got Crew, who's 5, Lainey, who's 3, and Peter, who's 2. And I feel like, you know, rather than ever introduce myself or tell anything about myself, I just love to show the picture because I feel like that's the best description of who I am and why I'm doing what I'm doing. Okay, these are some of the pictures I was going to show you. This is from our business. This is cold front. This is inside the store. This is the sauna. This is what people stand in. My car's got a license plate that says "Get Cold." All right, I'm spreading the gospel of freeze. I'm trying to freeze the nation. Okay, I want people to get cold, freeze their excuses, and experience all the benefits that come from getting frozen. It is crazy physiologically what happens to you when you go sub-zero for 3 minutes. The body was programmed with all these really incredible things it will do if you're dropped off on Mount Everest, just in case. So we're just hacking that, and it just blows into these powerful self-preservation mechanisms. The blood flow goes to the core, squeezes up all the arteries, you know, the blood vessels in your fingers and your toes, so they get really cold and start to turn blue. Blood gets filled with oxygen and anti-inflammatory enzymes. The norepinephrine levels and the dopamine levels start going crazy. Your metabolic rate shoots up in kind of defense, so you burn 500 to 600 more calories over the next 6 hours as a response. The inflammation, the pain, if it's acute from an injury or if it's chronic, sees a tremendous benefit. I mean, it's amazing. This stuff is like groundbreaking technology. You've heard of Tony Robbins? Who's heard of Tony Robbins? Right? So he says, this is his quote, he says, "Cryotherapy is my secret weapon." And so the idea here is let's take the secret weapon of the people at the very top of high performance and let's like make it accessible and affordable to the masses. That's kind of the whole idea behind Cold Front. Okay, this is my buddy Colby.
Oh my gosh.
Is that the typical response, like laughter?
I've known Colby for a long time, and he is the worst. If you're at a funeral with Colby, do not make eye contact, because if he gets the giggles, it's done. He's violent. He
sounds like
screams
Joe.
like his laughter, you know? So we were in high school together, and it was always really, really funny. But I was excited to get him in here because I just knew his result would just be this screaming laughter. So no, it's not. Most people are like, they go from like all smiles to like, oh crap, this is cold, you know, 30 seconds into it. They're looking at the little counter on the thing. Because it's intense, it really is. I mean, it's a dry cold, but you've never been this cold. Okay, here's our boy,
I have a question.
loyal customer. Yeah.
So, what the cold temperature? Mine are like 300 Fahrenheit, whatever. So why cold instead of hot?
So,
Like 200, 300 F.
yeah, good question.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of value. Obviously, saunas and hot saunas are a
Yes.
big thing, right?
Uh-huh.
It's just kind of a different goal. So cryotherapy in this format was invented by a Japanese doctor in the early 80s to treat patients with rheumatoid arthritis. So specifically inflammation as the enemy, this was the solution. So inflammation, extreme cold really targets inflammation. Everyone's had the experience of putting an ice pack on a knee or an ankle, right? Like we understand it at that level. If you were in high school sports or you're just like really weird, you've sat in an ice bath before, that is a painful experience. So it's very simply taking the same physiology behind cold treats inflammation and putting it in a format that's not painful, like an ice bath, that's quick, it's over in 3 minutes, and just way more practical. People can pop in and do this on their 10-minute break from work. right? So, but to your question, our machine has a heat element, so we can go from cold to hot. So we'll kind of really work that vasoconstriction, vasodilation. We go to both ends of the extreme there, which is really going to help the blood flow.
How much cost per section?
What's that?
How much it cost per 3 minutes?
For you?
Yeah, for me, yeah.
We charge people $60 a session, but it's because it's membership based. So we charge $200 a month, and you have access to the facility to do cryo, and we have compression booths. We have a healthy fridge full of drinks. People come in and grab a drink. So membership based makes it a little more affordable, $200 to $300.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah, good question.
Supporting the cause.
Yeah, he's rocking the Crocs. Okay, I feel so much better having something for you to look at other than me. So we'll backspace a little bit here and we'll continue on our path. So as I discovered the Miracle Morning recipe, there's 5 books that I would say are on the bookshelf of how to dominate your mornings. These are them. Miracle Morning is like, this is the bite-sized how-to and the why of how to wake up earlier and like it. This stuff, other stuff, will dive more into a deeper level of that. Own the Day, he dives a lot into the different things you can start your morning with. He talks a lot about nutrition. He gets like really granular level with hydration and different things that he's done to just further optimize. So this is kind of like starting point. This is like you're ready to optimize it and really hone this in. Psycho-cybernetics we're going to talk about. This is all about the self-image. So this is the part of the Miracle Morning where we're talking about affirmations and visualization. This book will blow your mind. So if you were to read and listen to one book other than Miracle Morning because you met Alex Mortensen, please let it be Psycho-Cybernetics. It's been a game changer for me. The Slide Edge is another amazing one. The Slide Edge talks about how when we look at people, and you know people that you look at and say, man, how does the guy get so much done? You know, your neighbor over the fence, you're like, how is Bill buying another boat? And like, he's happy, and he's just like, oh, we're living the same life, man. How is this guy doing this or that? And they're just leveling up. The Slide Edge tells us that it's not some big secret. There's no quantum leaps, typically. It is a list of daily disciplines that are so simple that they are deceiving. And they are so simple to do that they are just as simple not to do. And the Slide Edge is all about how a slight edge, like getting up an hour earlier and dominating 60 minutes of consciousness, that slight edge has a compound effect, like compound interest, that 10 years from now will have a completely different person. So take that one home. Understand, the things that make all the difference are so easy to do, and that's probably why we're not doing some of them. They are so easy not to do. Okay? You guys remember the Bible story about the snake and the serpent? So easy not to do that you just go ahead and die from a snake bite. Okay? That's the same thing. Some of these tips, these small daily disciplines, they're so easy to do. So let's do them. So savers, okay? Silence, affirmations. What was V? E? R? And scribing, okay? Savers. I like this because when I first endeavored to, all right, I'm a morning person, I'm going to dominate this, and then still, right, this morning, I'm an hour behind, I'm on Arizona time, blah, blah, blah. I just have to remember the acronym, and I just go through it. And just let it be your guide, okay? And then you'll customize this. We talked about yesterday. Sometimes logistically, the E, the exercising, that might have to come first, might have to come last, might have to come at the end of the day. Just be careful with that. Scheduling that little puppy out finds a way to not happen, but make it happen. And for me, rather than getting caught up in the, what am I gonna do for exercise, and I'm gonna go look at all these different plans, I would say the most important thing is make sure you sweat before 8 o'clock. Just sweat every day. You'll live a longer, happier life. That simple. Find a fun way to sweat, but make sure you're breaking a sweat every day before 8 o'clock. Game changer, right? Okay, so let's get a little bit back into the Miracle Morning. There's 3 things that very practically will make a very big difference in you being successful if you decide to take this on as something to give you a slight edge in your life. If you decide after this, all right, I'm gonna give this thing a try, reading the book's gonna help further that. These are 3 things that will actually measurably make a difference, okay? 1 is controlling your thoughts about the upcoming morning. How many of you last night, one of the last thoughts to go through your brain was counting how many hours of sleep you were going to get? Yeah. And was it like were you excited about the number or disappointed? You're disappointed. Think about that. The last thing that goes through your consciousness is, oh dude, I'm going to get 4 hours. This is going to be a train wreck. Thursday is literally already a nightmare. And then you spend the next 30 minutes thinking about that. And then you drift off into sleep, just tense and pissed. And then you wake up at 4 and like you're not pumped about waking up at 4. That is what we all do. So the first step is changing the dialogue in your brain and actually having bedtime affirmations. And for some of you, you might go, dude, I'm not, and do these out loud too. Your wife or husband will either be really inspired or really concerned. But I tell myself at night, I say, this 4.5 hours is going to be a restful, awesome sleep, and I'm going to feel amazing in the morning. Try it. It's completely flipping on its head what we typically do. We're priming our brain to be ready for that morning, and we're going to be excited. Everyone's experienced waking up the morning of a flight for a vacation, right? If you have a flight to the Bahamas, and you have to wake up at 5, and your alarm goes off, you're probably not hitting the snooze and rolling over. Like, you're immediately engaged because you're pumped. You're going to the Bahamas, right? Nothing actually changed. You probably got the same amount of sleep, but it was just a mental thing. So this is just a little hack. This is a secret. It'll change your life. Tell yourself you're excited. It doesn't matter if it's 3 hours or 8 hours. We believe what we say. So tell yourself you're excited for this restful sleep. I'm going to be happy and ready to go in the morning. The second thing, this one is just one that helped me. I charge my phone on the opposite side of the room. This does a few things. One is it just keeps me from the mindless scroll at night. That blue light is hampering your body's ability to release melatonin because it has some of the same wavelengths as the sunlight, and so our brain is not fully releasing its natural levels of melatonin when we're staring at the blue light. So unless we've got the screen glasses, like, remember your name?
Joe.
Joe's got it going on with the screen glasses. Most of us are really hurting our ability to fall asleep quickly. So the other thing is, when that alarm goes off early, you have to get out of bed to get it. Simple stuff. Third thing, having your clothes laid out, like your first day of school. Did you guys do that? The shirt and the pants and then the shoes right below it. I do that every day, almost every day. And it's something that's helped me, so just a little thing to consider. The worst thing is in these foggy hours that I hope we all start to experience, pushing this morning wake up earlier. The worst thing is to try to find a matching sock in that frame of mind.
Well, if you're with Kurt Wagner, you don't care if they do that.
That's true. Great point. Skip that one, Kurt. These are 3 practical things that will help you wake up fast. In the book, he talks about your wake up motivational level. Wake up motivation level, WUML. The first one is to brush your teeth as fast as possible. If you're someone that brushes your teeth after you eat breakfast, it's okay, brush them again. This is something that actually helps. So wake up, straight, brush your teeth. Second thing is hydrate. I should have put a picture or a link. I have this little powder. I don't know, did she say she found them at Costco? Where's Carrie? So Zip Fizz's money. This stuff's called Liquid IV. Okay, so Liquid IV is a hydrate. Yeah, he's got it right here. So it's a little packet. They're sending it in mass quantities to countries where people are actually dying of dehydration. It's got enough salt, some sugar, and some other things, some citrus, that it helps you absorb more of the water you're drinking. Most of us wake up partially dehydrated, and so a full glass of water, bonus points is throw in some Liquid IV, but hydrate really, really quick, and then get lit. Go to some light in the house, turn on the lights. Don't try to do the savers in a dark room. It's not going to end well. Okay, so those are some of the mechanics of the morning. We can talk more about the actual mornings, those tips and tricks. The good news is it's in the book. So if you kind of in some way grasp onto this idea of I'm kind of digging this, I want to try this, the book is like, that's what it's about. He's going to talk all about the details, the nooks and crannies of how to dominate your mornings. What I want to do is talk about something that I'm a little more passionate about. And I feel that the Miracle Morning was the gateway to me really having the time and the consciousness to discover this. And it's a perfect time of day to do these exercises we're going to talk about. So it's like the Miracle Morning for me gave birth to what I'm now going to talk about, which has everything to do with our self-image. How many credit bureaus are there? Okay, there's 4 now. We're going to talk about this 4th one is your internal credit score. This concept for me, it's a fairly new one, but it really resonates. So let me see if you think it's worth talking about. When we commit to ourselves to do something, and then we don't do it, the next time we commit to do something, whether we are aware of it or not, there is a little internal credit bureau that's going, all right, pal, last time you were delinquent on that commitment, and the last time you were as well. And whether or not you even are aware of it in the moment, you don't believe yourself as much as you maybe could when you set those goals or those targets. And it does live in the subconscious. The opposite is true. When we keep commitments that we have set, deep down, we believe that next commitment that comes out of our mouth or makes it onto a paper or onto a whiteboard. Because deep down, we've got a history. We've got a payment history. We've got a credit history now of, oh, Joe does stuff. When he says he's going to do it and it's like a real thing, like, yep, we're looking back at the last things he did that. And there's a loop that is created, and this loop has momentum with it. And you can get to a point where your internal credit score, if you will, is so prime that you're almost careful to make a goal or set a target because you know, consciously and subconsciously, those targets are 100% for real. And so the Miracle Morning for me, if nothing else, was an opportunity to take out a loan, kind of stretching the analogy here, to get a line of credit, to get an opportunity to build credit with myself. Now this doesn't mean that failure hurts your credit score. We have to be careful because failing forward, that is part of the recipe of success. I've failed a lot of times in the businesses I've been involved with and the different ventures I've tried. Some of them were totally lame and didn't go anywhere. But the difference is, it wasn't that I didn't follow through, it's that I hit a roadblock and I readjusted course. And it morphed into something else. So there's a difference between failure and not following through on a commitment. And the latter is what hurts our credit score. And the credit repair is possible, but it takes a lot of time and it's more painful. And so when we begin something new, and if you begin Savers as a Miracle Morning routine, be aware that there's 2 things happening. There's the actual benefits today of spending time in silence, having positive affirmations, visualization, the exercise, the reading, the scribing, but there's also what's happening in the background. Your credit score is under review. You are actually seeing, am I the kind of person that sticks with things? We'll talk a little more about that. Okay, Maxwell Maltz.
Question.
Yeah.
Sorry, on that. So I'm just thinking. So quitting is generally seen as something negative or bad, right? But in the case of a business that's just, it was a bad idea. At some point you got to say, this was a bad idea. I'm not gonna follow through with this anymore.
Yes.
So at what point then you make that determination of, I'm just giving up because I'm tired of dealing with it, or I'm giving up because it really is a bad idea? How do you?
Well, I think you just said it perfectly right there. So in my mind, we'll talk about a missile, a heat-seeking missile, okay? We're gonna actually talk about that specifically. There's a difference between a redirect and a give up. Lots of businesses fail. In fact, most do. But it doesn't mean the business owner, the entrepreneur, the person that started the endeavor is a failure. Unless it was out of that first thing you said, which is, I'm just kind of tired of this, I'm gonna give up. That hurts the credit score. This was a venture that sounded great. I'm now at a roadblock. I'm now at a point where I need to adjust course. And then you adjust course with enthusiasm and you boldly go on to that next move. Credit score's fine. Maybe it actually went up a few points. So that's the difference there. Does that help answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. It's just, for me, in my mind, making that determination between, am I doing this for the right reason or not? That's kind of where I struggle a little bit.
And I think that I struggle with that too. There's probably times where maybe that line is a little more gray. But I think it comes down to, why am I stopping this? Am I stopping this because I'm redirecting course? Because I've discovered that my current plan of action is not the fastest path to my goal? Or am I stopping it because I am tired, lazy, bored, right? If those are the why factor behind it, it's probably hurting the internal credit score. And it's going to affect our belief in ourselves the next time we set out to do a venture. And that's where we get to this point where sometimes people will say, well, I don't really write goals down or like make goals because I just feel bad about it. I feel guilty. It's been a bad experience, or I'm setting myself up for disappointment, right? So let's start something, anything, to build the credit score to the point where the next time you set a goal, there's no doubt it's happening. And the reason I like the credit analogy is I deal with credit all the time because a business I'm involved in, we sell loans. We finance big ticket items for people. And the idea is, the financier takes a little peek at that TransUnion. They're like, oh, cool, done. You give them 50 grand. We have no doubt. Yeah, there's some risk, but we have no doubt. It's good. We are good to take that risk. We're going to have that same deep down response the next time we set a target, and it's going to be based off of our history. Okay. Maxwell Maltz said this: our self-image and our habits tend to go together. Change one and you'll automatically change the other. So this is maybe more of the heart of what I wanted to talk to you about today. When we talk about goals and we talk about objectives, a lot of times it falls into that same bucket that Kurt talked about, where it's this motivation that's connected to kind of this spur of enthusiasm, this boost of energy, kind of this caffeine spike, okay? It's the reason the parking lots fill up January 2nd and they dwindle February 15th, okay? Because a target was made. And we're really good at getting ourselves amped for a new target or a new goal. There's something refreshing about, I wrote it down on the mirror, or January 1st is just a catalyst. It's a tradition thing. It's this catalyst for I'm going to think about a new target. But the reason that so often there's this atrophy a couple of months in is because of what we're going to talk about. The self-image and the habits, or you could say the behavior, go together. But we are surrounded by advice and books and positive thinking and cute quotes that focus all on the behavior and all on the habit, but not on the self-image. So just how important is our self-image? Did you have a question? Okay. So truth number one about self-image. And this is a bold statement, so digest it, decide if you agree. It's okay if you don't. I'm telling you it's true. All of our actions, feelings, behavior, even your abilities, are consistent with your self-image. Okay? Digest this for a second. All of your actions, feelings, behaviors, and your abilities are consistent with your self-image. Okay? A sentence that comes out of your self-image is something like, well, I'm not a blank person. That is a self-image description sentence right there. I'm not a morning person. If you say that, it's probably because that's how your self-image is. And I'm telling you, any ramped up, excited efforts to all of a sudden have morning person behavior will last about as long as a 5-hour energy lasts until you're tired again. Until you become a morning person and you believe that you are a morning person, then the morning person behaviors are not this willpower summoned, grit your teeth effort every day. It's what morning people do. Right? There's a difference between I'm going to quit smoking and really driving that as the behavior. I'm going to quit smoking. I will not smoke anymore. To once someone becomes, I'm not a smoker. I don't smoke because I'm not a smoker. It just makes sense, right? If you still view yourself deep down in the subconscious as a smoker, you can pretend through some artificially really willpower muscle through behavior for a while, but you will revert to what your self-image is. And that's the real message here. So that's the first truth, is that we are consistent with our self-image. Another way to say this, we act like the person we consider ourselves to be. Now here's the exciting part. Truth number 2, your self-image can intentionally be changed. And this is the miracle. And this was a breakthrough for me. I feel like, things were going well for me, family-wise, work-wise, like no crazy crises going on. But if I were to somehow quantify for you some of these different areas of my life in which I put effort, you would see on that graph a very sharp turning point when I started to work on my self-image instead of just think about the behaviors that I wanted. I started to get the things that I want, and I'm serious about this. And I was telling Kirk, it's not like I want to go through a list of like, look at all these things I have now, but really, I was able to achieve in that year. I was able to double my income and start a new business, and buy the house we wanted to buy, and spend more time with my kids, because these are the things that I focused all my effort on reforming my self-image as it related to those things. It's very powerful. So here's another quote by Maxwell Maltz. One of the reasons it has seemed so difficult for a person to change his habits or his way of life has been that heretofore nearly all efforts to change have been directed to the circumference of the self rather than the center. So this goes back to habits and self-image go together, but there is a tendency to focus on the habits and the behavior instead of reprogramming the self-image. Are you with me? You guys following with me? Okay.
Just want to make sure I guess I understand, because I guess to me to say that all of one's actions are consistent with their self-image would almost suggest that everyone has an accurate self-image, which to me wouldn't make sense. I think someone can perceive themselves to be one way, but not act in accordance with that, like a false self-image, I guess. And I feel like I've observed that, at least, or maybe I'm not understanding what you mean by self-image, but I think it's not hard to say someone considers themselves to be a patient person, but they're really not, or at least from an outsider's perspective, they're really not, or they consider themselves to be really good at their diet or their exercise, but they're actually not. I mean, I guess maybe
it's a great question. It's a great point. It's a really good point. I have my thought. Does anyone have an appendage comment or question right along with that? Was anyone kind of thinking the same thing?
You talking about politician stuff or people or what?
No, because for me in my life, usually what initiates a change is when I see a discrepancy between how I actually am and who I want to be. When I see a difference between, I guess when I realize that my perceived self-image isn't in line with my actual, I guess, self-image or who I act, and that's usually for me what instigates a change, when I realize that, oh, I'm not who I thought I was, or this isn't who I want to be, or between what I think my image should be. But I guess to me that just kind of suggests that one's self-image is always accurate, which.
So you said it perfectly right there in that second part. Like, that was beautiful, because what you said was you're having this internal conversation with, oh, my behaviors are one way, but I think my real self-image is another way. My point here is that the truest version of our self-image lives deep in our subconscious. And sometimes it's a little different than what we might perceive, or we may have some of this discrepancy. But the cool thing is what you just said is when you instigate a change, it's because you deep down feel like, I'm actually not that person that I've been acting like. That's exactly proving the point. The deep down, the true image, and when you say accurate self-image, self-image is who we see ourselves as. Okay? But you said that it instigates a change in your behavior. It's because deep down, who you truly believe you are noticed an inconsistency between who you truly are and your behavior, and then you said it instigated a change. And that's what happens. There is a mechanism internally called, and here's the word of the day, cybernetic. Does anybody know that word?
Book.
The book, yeah. I don't honestly know if there's any other context where people use this word. But a cybernetic instrument is an instrument in either a living being, like we're talking about cybernetics within people, but machines have cybernetics. But it is a mechanism that has the ability to perceive its target and whether or not it's on course for that target and adjust. Back to what I said earlier, like a heat-seeking missile. So you have a self-image, you saw a behavior, and you noticed a discrepancy, and you said it instigated a change. This is what happens, okay? So there's two truths. One is this realization that in our subconscious we have this version of a self-image, and that our daily behaviors and actions are related very closely to that self-image. The second truth is that we, okay, as the finest of God's creation, are this unique species that has the ability to program this thing. We can program that self-image. And when we discover how to do that, it is game on. We can put some data into that thing, and its result, being a newer, healthier, different self-image, will translate into the behaviors. And those behaviors lead us to the things that we want, right? I wanted a particular result in business, income, freedom, okay? I didn't spend all my time thinking just about this. I learned these truths. I changed my self-image to be the type of person. I am the type of person that makes this much money. Or I'm the type of person that has freedom with his family. And once that was changed, I'm telling you, then the behaviors that then lead to that target, to a degree, start to take care of themselves. Doesn't mean it doesn't take the discovery and the effort and everything else, but I'm saying we're focusing more on the circumference of the self than the center. And that's the whole point here. So things like, I will get that raise. I will be more patient with my kids. If these were affirmations that someone's telling themselves, that's a great positive thinking affirmation. There's no harm there. I will get in better shape physically. Okay? But these are circumference of the self versus the center of the self. And that's just the point I'm really trying to make here. So here's kind of the opposite. This would be more of this true, let's get to the heart of where the change happens. I'm the kind of person that makes more money. I'm the kind of person that's patient with his kids. That's who I am. It's like that's my image. If that becomes truly my image, if that is my image, that's who I believe I am, it's not this thing I have to proactively force myself to do. We act like the people we are. I'm the kind of person that's always in shape. I don't really try that hard because it's just the kind of person I am. I believe that about myself. If I all of a sudden got really out of shape, I'd be having some serious discord because there'd be this, what's happening here? My behavior's not matching who I believe I am. But it's powerful because once I have this idea that I am a person that's in shape, doing the activities that lead to being in shape, like exercising every day, doesn't take a lot of effort. Because you do the things that are associated with the type of person you believe you are. Who wants to volunteer to explain how a thermostat works? Come on, IT. Who can tell me how a thermostat works?
I just put a new one in.
Just put a new one in? Okay.
I put one in 2 days ago. Basically, it has a threshold, right? So like the old-fashioned one that I took out had mercury in it, right? And as mercury got heated up, then it would move and it would trigger a switch to turn on like air conditioning or to turn on a furnace if it got below a certain point, right?
Yeah.
When it reduced in size. So I guess basically thermostat you can just simply say that it hits a certain threshold and it creates an action based on that.
Okay. So it has the ability to sense when it is
hot or cold,
hotter or
Temperature,
colder
yeah.
than it was programmed to be.
right?
So that is probably one of the best definitions or examples of a cybernetic mechanism in a piece of hardware. We all have a thermostat, so let that kind of be the image that you have of understanding what I'm talking about. The subconscious mind is also a cybernetic mechanism. Okay? The definition is the science of automatic control mechanisms in living things or machines. something important to understand about the cybernetic mechanism that's inside of our subconscious is that it's impersonal, and it relates in response, it responds to the images, the thoughts, and the beliefs that we feed into it. So just like a thermostat has to get data from the user of where it's trying to be, 70 degrees, it then takes over. I don't ever have to go remind my thermostat to do its thing. Like, hey, let's go. It does it. It has the sense and it has the ability to course correct. If it gets hot, it knows, it goes, and it goes to where I told it to go. That's an automatic mechanism. So with the mind, the images, the beliefs that we feed are what it responds to. And this is the powerful thought. So missile guidance system, that's another analogy I like, the heat-seeking missile. So now that we know truth number 2, which is that the self-image can be changed intentionally, that this cybernetic mechanism can be programmed intentionally, how? And the how, don't let the title of it scare you away here. It's imagination. Okay, so stay with me. A squirrel has a cybernetic mechanism. The cybernetic mechanism in a squirrel says, harvest all these nuts and put them away, food storage, right? No one taught the squirrel to do that. It doesn't have to get motivated to do that. It doesn't listen to a podcast. It's just in there. It's deep and it's just a real thing. Where we are incredible and why we are the finest of all creations is that we have the ability to imagine, and creative imagination is how we code this cybernetic mechanism. Creative imagination is not something reserved for poets, the philosophers, the inventors. It enters into our every act. For imagination sets the goal picture that our automatic mechanism works on. We act or fail to act not because of will, as is so commonly believed, but because of imagination. Okay? You guys staying with me? Okay. Here's another one then. A human being always acts and feels and performs with what he imagines to be true about himself and his environment. This is a basic and fundamental law of mind. If you're hiking and you think you see a bear coming towards you, you will run for your life. Because what you imagine to be real is that a bear is coming to rip you open. Our actions are always driven by what we imagine to be real. So this brings me to the theater of the mind, and this is such a fun topic for me, and this is where in the Miracle Morning recipe, this finds itself into the A and the V, the affirmations and the visualization. And if you wanted an extra book on the book list, the Psycho-Cybernetics book by Maxwell Maltz was written in the 60s. It sold over 40 million copies. This thing's amazing, but he talks about this, calls it the theater of the mind. And this is the actual exercise. So after all of this, if you buy into this, okay, these two truths, I understand a cybernetic mechanism, the self-image is actually the driver for all these behaviors, and I have the ability to program this thing. Theater of the mind is like the workshop. This is where it happens, one of the ways, okay? In the theater of the mind, Maxwell Maltz says he spends 30 minutes doing this a day. And if you tried this for 30 minutes tomorrow, like, that is gonna feel like a very long time. So maybe try it for 5 minutes and grow from there. But here's the concept. So the theater of the mind is in your silent place, relaxed and undisturbed. Phone's not gonna ring, notification's not going off. You close your eyes and you go into your theater. Now get this, he says that you should be able to see with detail the color of the felt on the chairs, the lights that like light the little path walking into the theater. You should know what chair you sit in. This is not unique to Maxwell Maltz. I'm very good. I'm close with a guy named Dr. Craig Manning. He's a performance psychologist. He trains a lot of the BYU teams. I don't know if anyone's ever, he's kind of a Utah guy.
Look where it turned out. No,
Yeah, yeah, for real. He's incredible. Look him up. The Fearless Mind. It was one of those books on the 5. It's Craig Manning. He teaches this exact same principle, and he gets paid a lot of money by companies like Red Bull to go get their athletes out of their bad mental states and get them back on track. He doesn't call it the theater of the mind, but it's the same principle, and here's what it is. Going into this theater, pick your seat. As I talk to you about this, I can see my theater. I know what it looks like. You're going on this side, I know what you see, okay? You sit here, and on the screen, you put up the movie. And this movie is me. And it depends what movie we're watching today, but for me, most of the time in my mornings, it is me watching myself having a miracle morning routine about 10 years from now. And I try to imagine, creative imagination, okay, which God gave us the ability to do. I try to create the most vivid movie, and I watch myself wake up, and I see the way that I feel. You feel this person. I see the house he lives in. I see the way he talks to his wife. I watch myself, and I am very conscious that these things I'm working to shape my self-image into are being embodied and being expressed by this me on the screen.
I love what you're talking about. I realized 20 years ago I met a guy, the first 6 pages of his journal, he had one of those large, sized journals. It was like a scrapbook where he placed pictures that were his theory of the mind. And every morning he spent time looking at those pictures because they were where he was going to be.
Yep.
It was a physical theater, in a sense.
The subconscious, the cybernetic mechanism that we have been given, responds to images. So people have physical images, a goal board, right? Things that you see. But there's something about actually harnessing the ability we have to see ourselves third party in our creative imagination. It is like someone opens up the code and goes ham into coding this internal missile guidance system. If I see myself wake up enough times living the type of life the way I am in this movie, enough times, deep down in the unconscious, the subconscious, it is being recorded. And I'm projecting that onto my subconscious. And guess what? I start to believe that. I start to believe that I am that guy. I am the kind of person that is extremely patient with his kids. I am the kind of person that is living his dreams, and I wake up every day excited. I get detailed with this stuff too. I mean, I'm telling you, I'm the kind of person that lives in White Wing off of Riggs Road. I mean, that's just my thing. You can do what you want here. This is personal, very personal. But when I believe that, then the behaviors, this is the law of nature we're talking about here. They are in relation to the self-image. And I'm feeding that self-image, and I'm shaping it, and I'm harnessing the power of creative imagination to do this. And every one of us has the ability to do this. You can start this today. But internalize these things that you want the most in life, but don't think about the objective. Don't just think about the thing. See the person that is the kind of person that has those things, that does those things, that is that way. And allow something that you naturally have to absorb that and to do the program. Allow the cybernetic mechanism to do its thing. And it's amazing how these results in the form of these external things will start to come. They'll start to happen in life. And I'm telling you, I'm not, I didn't go learn about this from something. I'm not this isn't like my profession to come teach people these things. I'm just telling you, this happened to me. Through a series of very fortunate events, I was placed in the path of discovering these truths, and I internalized them, and I really went for it, and in a short amount of time, my life has measurably changed for the better. And so I'm grateful And I feel like if I have the ability to kind of share this and impart it, then it's a privilege to do so. And so that's why I'm here doing it. I stand nothing to gain by sharing it other than I'm so grateful to do it. And I'm grateful someone inadvertently led me on this path to just understand this really, really basic truth. And it's amazing that this understanding, it's not new, but yet so many of us still, when we get fired up to think about goals, we immediately go to this old school. Let me think about this external event that I want to happen, and I'm going to drive it into the universe, and I'm going to be positive. But we don't actually realize that deep down in the subconscious, there's this little voice that says, but you're not the kind of person that does that, Alex. And that is what has to be changed in order for there to really be long-term, sustainable, big differences made in the way our life looks. Let me tell you about an example, okay? I have a self-image of being a picky eater.
How long have you had it?
Like, as early as I can remember. Because when I was little, I was the picky one. My mom was always upset because I wouldn't eat my olives and my, salad and my carrots and whatever. And so I found myself, I say it out loud to people, yeah, I'm kind of a picky eater. We'll go to a nice restaurant and I'm like, where's the kids menu, I'm not like classy enough for this. Like I kind of have this little, so it's a deep subconscious self-image, but I've also noticed it because of, obviously, I don't eat a lot of the things that I should, and I say it out loud. And I find myself casually explaining myself as I'm a picky eater. That's 100% self-image right there. So there's been times where I've said, you know what, okay, I'm into this, I'm gonna do this, like, I'm gonna do this juicing thing, or like I'm gonna follow this keto deal. I'll look up this new program and get fired up about it, but it doesn't last very long, because deep down I'm still the same picky eater. I see myself as that. I don't like those things. So in kind of preparation for this, I've really kind of thinking, what's the next thing I really would love to shape about myself? And I've been really working hard on telling myself, and it sounds silly, but I see myself eating a big green salad. Mm-hmm. And I watch myself eat this whole thing and eat fresh fruits and vegetables and all this stuff. And I believe it. And in my affirmations, which part of the Miracle Morning, some of them are verbal, some of them you write down, or both, they go together. I say, I eat all kinds of healthy food. That's the kind of guy I am. I eat everything. I eat healthy stuff. I love vegetables. Okay? I'm not psychotic. I'm hacking this technology. Okay? And it works. I mean, yesterday they brought in a salad, and I'm not kidding you. I didn't even consciously go, okay, sandwich, salad. It just looked good. Like, dude, I'll do the salad. And this boy threw down a salad, 2 servings. And then it was just funny. I went and stayed with my aunt and uncle last night, and they had barbecue chicken chopped salad. It was all fresh and good, and I enjoyed it. I really did. I liked it. And that's groundbreaking. Okay, I don't eat salad. Didn't used to. I do now. It's a simple thing, but it's powerful. It's replicatable. I can do this over and over. It's almost exciting to think, what's the next thing I'm going to shape myself into be? Because when I believe it, I can do it. Right? Another book that's changed the world is As a Man Thinketh. Right? These principles are all in the Bible. Jesus taught these same principles. These are true principles. But we have somehow gotten a lot of these warped ideas when it comes to goal setting and achieving that totally miss the mark. And so let's focus on the center. Let's dive deep. Let's use the Miracle Morning as a format and a time and a prescription to allow us to have the time to do the theater of the mind. Right? It's just a perfect complement. So I have a couple invitations I want to make, but any questions or thoughts about what we've talked about?
One thing that stuck out to me today.
You're going to have to talk loud because we've got
Sorry,
jet engine landing on us.
The subconscious mind. When you're talking about subconscious stuff, I remember studying that a little bit in psychology in high school, and it fascinated me because your mind is an amazing tool, right, that we have. And everything that we feed it, whether we see it, hear it, smell, all of our senses bring in all this information, and it can do amazing things with it. And I just remember hearing, it's kind of like, the things that you listen to, you might be listening to music, but your subconscious is really taking the words that the lyrics,
yes,
and they're turning them around backwards, forwards, and it kind of goes into backmasking and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Remember finding that fascinating? But then you start thinking about how it plays into what you're talking about now too. It's okay, so the things that you're viewing, whether you're looking at it on the internet, TV, any media, or anything you're listening to, you're feeding the theater of your mind.
Yes.
Right? And so you know, if you want to become something, but you're turning around doing something else, watching something that maybe feeds a different message, you're kind of counteracting each other, you know, so.
Absolutely. And something too, and you bring up a good point, and if you dive into this, understanding the subconscious, and especially if you read Craig Manning and these high performance coaches, they'll make a very important point that the subconscious doesn't recognize positive or negative.
Right.
You guys heard this? So don't hit the sandpit is not a good affirmation. You're putting the image of a sandpit in your subconscious, in your mind's eye, and you're causing trajectory. You end up hitting the sandpit, right? Our minds are like that. And so a lot of times, well-meaning but misguided efforts go into thinking, I will not do this. I will not do this. I will not smoke today. The more educated way to, the more efficient message to deliver is, I am this, or I always this. I am a healthy eater.
How do you, I guess, navigate or find, I don't know how to say it best, there's, I guess, not all achievements or not all investments or things you become are, I guess I'd say, like, equal, maybe the best word. I mean, perceiving something or desiring or coming up with an image in your mind will dictate your actions, but it can't guarantee the result unless that thing you're perceiving can produce true results. For example, if your image was to be a healthy person, right,
Yeah.
then you recognize you would eventually have to eat healthy. But if
Yeah.
your image was that I'm a healthy person without even having to eat healthy, I'm just the type of person who has a super high metabolism, I'll be in great shape no matter what I eat. You can image that all you want, and there are people like that, but that's not how it is for everybody at the same time.
Yeah.
You can think that, but your image, perceived, future, current, or whatever, has to be based in truth, or else it won't actually happen. I can think flipping the switch will turn on the light, and maybe it will most of the time, but it won't if the light's out or if the
Right.
electricity's not on. So, and I recognize that a lot of time maybe we hold ourselves back because we perceive a constraint that's not real, and maybe a lot of the goal is breaking past barriers that aren't actually there. But what advice would you give about being able to navigate the difference between, I guess I'd say, something that really can be and something that can't? You know, I mean, outside of obvious examples, I can't imagine myself getting taller, and I would. But
Right.
you know, how would you give guidance to, say, starting your own business? I could perceive myself as someone who could run my own business, but is that necessarily what's best, or how I'll be happiest or most successful at the same time? Does that make sense?
I have a couple thoughts on
gave
that.
those
So
obvious.
I operate well with examples, so let's just stick with the one you just gave. You said, but is that the path that actually will lead me to what I wanted to be happy? You need to discover that first before you spend the time really harnessing the self-image of, I'm a business owner, I'm an entrepreneur, right? Spend a lot of time deciding, you know, the big picture things that I want in life. Is being a business owner part of that? Is that going to take me to my goals? And that's the discovery phase. I'm saying by the time you're ready to really feed your self-image, your subconscious with this, be pretty clear on that. Like, don't just dive into the subconscious of, I am an Olympic skier. When I'm like, dude, that actually doesn't have any alignment with what I want my lifestyle to look like. So I think that's just the discovery. And, admittedly, I think I struggle with that too. There's a lot of discovery. What do I really want in life? But once you know what you do want, so picking something that you know for sure you want, driving the self-image deep that I am the kind of person that is this, does this, feels this. I don't know for sure if I touched on it. Let me address your first example to see if this helps as well. So you mentioned the eating thing. So if you have this theater of the mind, these affirmations, this powerful stuff, I'm a healthy person. but you're saying you don't actually take any efforts to eat healthy or do healthy. You're just trying to like have such a strong visualization session that regardless of those behaviors, you'll be healthy just on the merits of like metabolism and these type of things. That's called being confused, I think, to a degree. I think if I mean, it's an interesting thing. If I sat every day and said, I am a ripped bodybuilder and I can lift 325 like it's nothing, but the extent of that was that 30 minutes that I thought about that every day and I never saw a gym, right? But here's what I would say. The behaviors stem out of our true, like our legit self-image. Not our positive thinking, what we want ourselves to see ourselves as, but what our subconscious actually views itself as. And I think in order for that cybernetic mechanism, that deep subconscious, to absorb that data and to actually make a change, make a shift, it has to be believable. And so if in the back of my mind I know I'm never going to hit the weights, but I'm going to tell myself I'm strong, the self-image, it can't be tricked. Like, in order for there to be a real shape in my self-image that leads to behaviors, that leads to a result, I have to really believe it. My subconscious has to buy it. And if in the back there's this backup plan of like, you're not going to actually put forth the effort to do the uncomfortable thing, I just don't think the self-image will even absorb it. It'll just be like, yeah, right.
I think going off what he asked, like, I don't think you really need to focus so much on the result, like the tangible or whatever it is. It's more how you feel from that result. I think that's the biggest thing. It's like, you can say, oh, I want a lot of money, but the money doesn't really mean anything. It's how you feel from getting all that money.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think your why is critical here, because I see myself, I would love to have a lot of money, but that's not what I care about. I care about time with family, being a good dad, spending more time maybe in the mountains. So money is just a subset of what gets me there. So you need to have a very clear why.
Yes.
And I believe that if you can find your center like you're talking about, that it will drive behaviors if you're being true to yourself on your why and your motivation, your image.
Yeah, absolutely.
It will drive it. If you want to be that bodybuilder, and that's a real thing for you, you might not be it now, but it will begin. You'll start feeling those pangs when you go to grab that Oreo, or when you look at your bike, or pass by the gym. You'll start getting those prompts from that self-conscious. I believe that it's true.
Right. And if it's truly being embedded in the self-conscious, and you truly want the thing, I would say the behaviors that then lead to it are almost irresistible. I mean, if you truly want to be a bodybuilder, and you want that, and you spend the time to cultivate a healthy self-image that quiets all the critics in that thing and the little voice that says, but you're skinny, you don't put on weight very well. Like, the self-image, once the self-image believes I am a bodybuilder, and it's met with this fervent desire for the outcome, I want to be this, right? Then the behaviors are irresistible. Like, you are put off if you can't get to the gym. It is, you're not forcing yourself. You long for the behavior, right? Because it is real, it's genuine, it's true.
Do you find at that point then that sometimes being the body, in this example, the bodybuilder, maybe that's not where you'll be, but where you go through a reset and maybe you find another way to express that truth if it does not become possible for a man?
Yeah.
Whether self-image or a business that your initial truth was not the reality of your how it turned out.
Well, we touched on the difference between giving up because you're giving up and redirecting, right? Changing the target based on the new facts or the new logistics of the reality, right? So I do think that those things change. But just to kind of touch again, refresh real bit on this. What we're really getting at here is when someone is saying, I want this thing, I find it hard to do the behaviors over and over again that lead to it. I want to be fit and look like I did when I was 18, but why can I not consistently get myself to run and eat well? This is teaching us that it's because deep down in the self-image, you don't believe fully that you are the kind of person that is healthy, eats well, and exercises every day.
Or you don't truly want it, right? I mean, could that
Or
be
you don't
possi-
truly want it.
I mean,
but you're
like,
probably not having that
I-
argument with yourself if it's not a true want.
I really love Oreos. Do I want
So do I.
Oreos more than I want to be skinny? I mean, that could be a true thing in my head where I'm saying, no, I don't know. What do I really want?
Yeah.
Do I want to be skinny, or do I want to be able to eat Oreos whenever I want to eat Oreos? You know?
Yeah.
Orioles are going under the bus here, huh?
No.
Way off the Oreos. I'm in on the Oreos.
I mean, so how do you? I mean, because sometimes you're subconscious, and sometimes what you really want might not be what's good for you. So how do you get past that?
So here's what I would say. I like to think of the example of golf because I am not a passionate golfer. I don't care a ton about golf. I married into a very passionate golfing family. Okay, it goes like golf, God, family. It's serious. Okay. In like the business world, sometimes I'm at a disadvantage that I can't just go on the golf course and like just play a decent round. Like I'm inept. Okay. But it's not enough of a frustration for me. It's not enough of a pain point that I'm going to really make this my self-image reframe right now. If it was a thing, and you said, well, you know, what if you don't really want that thing? I'm saying we're talking about those things in your life that it is a big enough deal that it becomes front and center. This is the thing I would love my self-image to be shaped in accordance to, so that my behaviors go. So with the golf thing, yeah, I could totally dive into all this in that category and convince really visualize myself golfing a great game and loving it, and tell myself I am a golfer. I love to golf. I love to practice golf, and then take the actions, pay for lessons, go, and keep reframing every single day in my visualization. I'm a golfer. I love to golf, and I golf really well, and I can focus on it. But it's not enough of a pain point for me. It's not enough of an issue for that to be the thing that I focus on. And so I don't need to.
I think too, some things is, you really need to go back to what we talked about earlier, one of those books, the simple thing,
The Slide Edge.
The Slide Edge. Take the things that are most important. Don't try to eat the elephant.
Yep.
With this whole reprogramming thing. I mean,
Absolutely.
if all of us right now decided we want to go be bodybuilders, is that really realistic? Probably not. But let's pick the most important 2 or 3 things that are the most important to you, and then dive into trying to change that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just because we have all the capacity maybe to excel in all these different areas doesn't mean that now we have this new understanding. We're going to go program it for all of those things.
I mean, it's obvious I'm
Right?
a bodybuilder.
Obviously.
And you can just believe that you got a pair too.
So for me, I like to think in terms of 3. I like to think of there's 3 kind of big picture things that at a given time I'm really charging towards. And as part of this routine, I'll spend my time in the theater of the mind, really making sure that I am feeding my self-image the images, the thoughts, and the feelings that will help me know I am the kind of person that does these things. And then I go put forth the effort, I do those things, but they're sustainable. They actually keep going. I don't just fizzle out after a month and a half because I'm the kind of guy that runs a small business that's thriving. It grows month over month, and the employees love it. I am the kind of guy that does that and doesn't get overwhelmed. I'm the kind of guy that does that. I tell myself that. I see myself doing it, you know? And if I believe that I am the kind of guy that can put out the fires, keep a cool head, keep it going, fight through the roadblocks, because I'm the kind of guy that can do that, that's my image. The how, the daily actually tackling those things and putting out the fires, you'll find it, you'll figure it out, you'll do it. But if deep down my self-image was not formed correctly, and I've got this really powerful critic deep down that goes, dude, you're the guy that puts too much on his plate and has failed before, and you could be overextending yourself, and you probably should try to simplify, right? Then the next time I have to go put out a fire, and we're out of nitrogen, we're freaking out. My self-image, the true self-image, is one of a person that is actually really worried he can't do this and doesn't really have the confidence, and actually maybe this was just too much. I bit off more than I could chew, like I have another job. He is just alive and well. So you see the difference there? The healthy self-image, the deep down, even if I'm just in chaos, I'm immersed in this situation, even if you're just mad at it, dude, why did I do? You could be upset, surface issues, right? But the self-image is of a person that is cool, calm, and collected that can do this. I'm the kind of person who can do this. I've seen it. I've watched myself run this thing. I've watched myself sell it when it's 10 times its size. It's just a powerful thing, and I love it. I just think it's so exciting that we have the capacity to do this. So those are my thoughts. Any other thoughts or questions? Yeah.
Okay, tell me if this is realistic. This is mine.
No, it's not.
Where's your drinks, Dr. Pepper, okay?
Yeah. In my mind, and unfortunately I've taught this to my son because I have 3 kids and 2 have a great metabolism. The 3rd is like me. And I've told myself it's just bad genetics. And so I eat what I want and losing the weight, you know, it doesn't happen because I have bad genetics and yada yada. But I've taught that to my son too, who it's a bad thing, but in my mind, you're saying I can change that.
I'm saying the powerful truth is that our behaviors are very tied to our self-image. So if the behaviors in our life could be different, and if they were, there'd be this result that would lead to a happier, more fulfilled person. If there's change possible in those behaviors, then we need to take a step back and look at fueling the self-image. Become, deep down in your subconscious, the kind of person that does these things. Now, the area to be aware of there is sometimes these behaviors can't, right? Someone mentioned being taller or something. You know, it needs to be an area where we see an opportunity to edit behavior. And then we take a step back, and instead of just really getting pumped about the new behaviors, we form the self-image. We project ourselves in the theater of the mind. These affirmations, this "as a man thinketh, so is he" principle. Because if we truly have a change there, the behaviors will follow suit with a lot of effort and detail, and we push you for it, but they'll sustainably change. So if that makes sense. So, you know, I have a family member that she has a particular, I don't understand exactly what medically is going on, but she's not going to lose 60 pounds if she changes the way she eats. There are situations involved, but the self-image of I'm a healthy eater that exercises daily, because that's who I am, that's who I believe deep down, will manifest itself in behavior. Now, whether or not one of those specific outgrowths is like measurable weight loss, or if it's better mental health, if it's you know, there's a lot of benefits of these healthy behaviors. But does that help? Any other thoughts or questions? Yeah.
Question on the freezing cryogenic.
Now we're talking. Yeah.
Have you ever had any accidents where you overfroze somebody?
They fall apart.
All right, turn off the cameras. I'll tell you what happened last week. No. The machine turns itself off at minute 3, so we can't go longer even if we try it. There's been 1 death in cryotherapy. Sometimes a quick Google search will find it. Now you guys are all going to go search it. People are like, you know, cryotherapy, is it safe?
One death?
1 death.
And what was the cause?
The girl worked there. It was in Vegas. It was closed. And she did a session by herself, which is like, don't do that. And the machine was old. It didn't have an automatic shut-off. Her phone was found at the bottom of the thing. So the thing, maybe she dropped it, went down, took a breath. You are out. If you take a breath of that about halfway down, you are out. It's pure nitrogen. So you'll black out. And that thing ran for like 5 hours.
Oh my God.
She was like popsicle.
So on that note, Selma, we ended with death. Let's give Alex a hand. One of the things that really resonated with me yesterday during the small group session, it was we talked about today, but a little bit different language, was once you focus on this self-image, it can replace willpower.
Willpower
right?
sucks.
Willpower sucks. We need willpower, but willpower just, right, it's hard. And if it's hard for too long, one of the things I enjoyed about the Miracle Morning is it says the first 10 days is unbearable, the second 10 days is uncomfortable, the third 10 days is unstoppable.
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 I brought 2 copies of the Miracle Morning that I'm going to give to the first 2 hands that go up. Oh, that was easy. Listen, you'll pass that down to him. No, not you. Oh, yeah, you were so slow.
Whoa! You're really doing that.
No, no, you were like the 11th person. So I just have a great vision that way. Now, the thing is, take the book home, love it, learn it, but don't camp on it. In other words, wouldn't it be a tragedy if you read that book and then you just parked it somewhere when you could pass it around?
Exactly.
Right?
Pass it to me next.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be a great thing? So that really resonated with me. I thought about how many. Yeah, please.
I was gonna say, you got Amazon Prime, it's free for Amazon Prime.
Boom, free download Amazon. Thank you very much.
Really?
Amazon Primers, raise your hand. Oh, there it is. Are you Amazon Prime?
Best thing ever.
So no more whining from you then. How many people have ever said something like this? I'm no good at. Yeah, I used to say I'm not good at remembering names. That was an easy thing for me to say because I work with a lot of people, large groups. So that was a great excuse, but it moved me immediately to why try. Right? People are, hey, you were with a lot of, you probably don't remember me, Kirk. Yeah, I probably don't. Right? Yeah, because I'm not. I used to say that. I said that for about 10 years. Now I say I'm really good with names, and I'm getting better all the time. That's what I say. I'm trying to program. I'm the kind of person that cares enough to remember your name. I'm the kind of person that remembers. Right?
What's my name?
Bob. Hey. I don't even care. I don't even care. So there was a lot of things. How many people got an idea or something that you're really processing, that you're kind of processing, some things that you talked about? I thought about psycho-cybernetics was something that I read, I think I read or listened to like 26, I think when I was in the Rangers. And I thought, I need to dust that thing off. I want to download I downloaded the audio last night. I'm going to start listening to it again. You've listened to it, what? Multiple times. Has anyone ever heard, you have an entertainer in your state called Jason Hewlett. Has anyone ever been to a Jason Hewlett concert? He's a kind of an impersonator, singing impersonator, kind of like Danny Gans used to be in Las Vegas. He's really super accomplished. His dad had all of his kids and his siblings all read, once a year they had to read As a Man Thinketh. And then Jason, when he was 14, said, I read it every month. I read it 12 times that year. He said, not only did I read it, I believed it. I knew it was important to my dad, but I just read it. And then he created it in himself. He said, I want to be a singing impersonator. And so he became part of the Las Vegas Legends. You know what the Las Vegas Legends are? Usually they've got a dozen or 24 actors there, and each actor does one personality. So he did Ricky Martin, and he said, but I did Elton John. But he said, I thought I could do more. And they go, yeah, everyone thinks they could do more. But Jason said, no, I can do more. And Jason then put together his own show, and he's been hired by the CEOs of Yahoo and Google. He does private showings, $25,000 a show. I mean, he just did it. And he did it all. And then he got offered by Vegas. They offered him a big stage down in Vegas. They offered him a big theater. And he was going to take it. It was a multi-million-dollar deal. And I thought, well, you're not even 30 yet. How have you accomplished so much? How do you accomplish so much? He didn't take the deal. He said, because it doesn't align with the kind of person I want to be. It doesn't align with the kind of person I want to be. So he lives up in Daybreak. And maybe we'll have him come in. Maybe we'll have him come and be one of our speakers one time. He's really a fun guy. Now, the other thing that last month, who was our speaker last month? Can someone say his last name? Yeah. Nick used a tool. Remember he talked about he wanted to get to 9% body fat. He wanted to start a coffee company. He wanted to accomplish these things in the next 90 days. He had his vision, and he wanted to become the kind of person that did those kind of things. And so he used a tool called the self-journal. In the self-journal, you kind of put down what are your goals, where do you want to be 13 weeks from now, and what are the things you'll need to have accomplished each week, and what are the things you need to do each day. And Nick said, using this tool, he said, I thought if I do this routine every day, think about your miracle morning, Nick said, if I do this every day for 90 days, there's no way I won't accomplish these goals. And he followed his daily pattern, and he used a tool called the self-journal. Has anyone ever heard of the self-journal besides the people we talked to yesterday? Yeah, just from Nick. Well, to the first hand that goes up, I've got a self-journal. There, I got a self-journal and a self-journal instruction packet. So, But are you willing to, are you really willing to commit to lean into this thing? There's also, if you go to the website, there's some videos that'll orient you. But what would be really cool is if it's September, and you don't have to start today, but if you'll kind of prepare, it'd be cool in September if you say, listen, I've been doing the self-journal now for 5 weeks, and let me tell you what I've discovered about myself, da-da-da. What would be really cool is, as we met, if we actually took some ideas from some of these presenters and said, I've been working on my self-image, and here's a couple things I've learned I'd like to share with the group. Because what did Alex say? Alex is not a keynote speaker. He doesn't make his living as a consultant. He's running his business. But he was kind enough at my request to say, listen, Alex, would you come? Would you come and talk to this group of people that are leaning into learning about themselves and how we can improve our lives and be better? And he said, sure, I'd love to come. And then he's thanking me. He said, Kirk, he said, just kind of formulating some of the things I've been through and that I've learned and kind of formulating an idea that I can share with other people. He said it was been so helpful to me to gain clarity around living the principles. And now he's eating salad, and I feel like I helped him. And your mom should thank me. Okay, so, okay. Finally, one more gift. Who doesn't have Prime? Doesn't have Prime?
I don't.
Doesn't have Prime?
You can move away?
I know.
Doesn't have Prime, but wishes they had this book. Okay.
I'm like,
You hesitated. You're like, you don't really want to get up in the morning. That's fine.
That's fine. Here we go. I want to try for me to get to it again.
Oh, absolutely. Wouldn't it be cool though?
He only speaks in
When's our next time to do this?
No, I'm just teasing.
When's our next time to do this? Yeah. So in August, your speaker is Art. I thought it was September.
It's August.
Like I said, August. Yeah, I'm totally on it. August, your speaker is Art Coombs. Art Coombs is the author of 3 books. Don't Just Manage, Lead, the Importance or Power of Human Connection. And the third one that he doesn't have published yet, but he's about to, is called Hard, Easy, Easy, Hard. He was the guy that hired me and created 1,000 jobs in 2 years. He's a mentor and a great leader and a dyslexic. So for a dyslexic to write a book, it's a big deal. And just in the last 3 or 4 years, he's changed his self-image, saying, I'm a writer. And he's been very committed to it. It's going to be a don't miss meeting. But it'd be really cool to begin that meeting with some stories from you about some of your experiences you've had. Listen, I've tried the Miracle Morning. I downloaded the book. I read the book. I set some goals. I got the self-journal. It'd be kind of fun to hear some stories. Because it's the stories from the people around us, right? The everyday people that I think inspire me the most. It wasn't, I love going to seminars, and I get to introduce speakers as part of my living. I introduce speakers to groups as an MC. But sitting next to Alex in his cryo and just listening to him and learning from him was more inspirational to me than a lot of CD books that I have, right? Because here's a guy I know, and he's doing this. And somehow that just makes it more doable for me. And I hope you felt that same thing today. And with that said, I thank you again for your attention and time. I'm going to turn it back over to Phil.
Thank you.
Love
Thanks,
this.
Let's give these guys a hand. Just a couple of notes that I made that I wanted to share with you guys. How many of you know that I train and judge hunting dogs? How many of you knew that? Some of you knew that, right? So we've all heard the saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Is that true?
No.
It is not true. It is absolutely not true. How many of you believe?
They just got to change their
Right,
stuff.
right. How many? Right.
Deep
How many of you
inside.
guys believe? Okay, Rich's point in my life. This is great. I got a 28-year-old guy up here telling me that, hey, you can change who you are. You can change. There's power in doing this. How many of you thought, yeah, great for you, not for me? I'm an old dog. You can't teach me new tricks. I'm sure I went through somebody's mind, right?
Yeah.
You can change it. It's false. You can change. You can do it. You have to decide. You have to make the decision. You have to empower yourself and take your self-image in order to want to do that. And I promise you that if you do it, you'll be grateful that you did, that you took that step. Most important in here is not that I get a better AutoEve employee out of this. What's most important to me is that you guys take these things that we're talking about and learning, and you become a better person, and you become a better husband, you become a better father, you become a better friend, and in turn, that translates to a better AutoEve employee, right? That's the most important thing. At the end of the day, Autolead is just Autolead, it's a company, but you guys are what matters, right? And the better you are, the better the people around you become, and it just becomes contagious. And that's what we want. That's what I want out of this. That's what I want to achieve by having these guys come in and talk to you and be here for you, ask, and I really appreciate and love the engagement that you guys had today, asking the questions, and I think there was a lot of good insights that were delivered. I remember one thing about Nick's message last month, and it resonated with me, was something that Alex said. If you remember, Brandon asked the question to Nick about how do you get over the mind block of that so many of these things have been done, and why would you go do this? Do you remember his answer?
I believe.
He said, I believe it, because I believe it. That's what Nick said. I believe it, and I don't care what others think, right? That's what he said. We gotta believe it. We gotta believe it. We gotta believe we can change. We gotta believe we hold our own power to make these changes and to decide whether or not we want to do something with what we've learned today. Do I think we're all going to go out and in a year from now, when these guys come back, we're all bodybuilders? No, that ain't what we're gonna do, right? But we're gonna take 2 or 3 things that are important to you and then go do these things. Put them in practice and try it, see if it works. I promise you it does. We've seen evidence that it does. We've talked to people that have got real world examples, and I love the real world examples, because it's one thing to read somebody's book and wonder, geez, did this guy really do this? Did this really happen to this person? It really did happen to Alex. Right? This was a real world thing for him. This is something that we can all learn from and do. So I encourage you to all take that. Thank you so much for taking the time and breaking away today and coming out and being here, being a part of it. I know it's a lot. I know it takes a lot for some of you to even drive here. Some of you came from Promontory and some other places. So thank you for being here and being a part of this. It's a good time to spend as a team and just be with each other. Now we've got some lunch back on the back table. Thank you, Carrie, Tony, and Terry for all your help with all the preparations of the food and putting everything together. And again, let's thank Alex and Kirk once again. Round of applause. Go enjoy some food.